Welcome everyone to the September 14th meeting of the Falmouth Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm Ken Foreman. I'm the current chair of the Zoning Board. Let me ask you first, please, to silence your cell phones if you have not already done so, and then introduce the board. So, on your left, we have Jerry Patamas, who's an associate member of the board, T.J. Hurry, who's vice chair of the board, Kim Beelan, who's clerk of the board, Ed Van Kuren, who's a voting member of the board, Paul Murphy, a voting member of the board, and Robert Dugan, who's an associate member of the board. We didn't do the cell phone. So we're here, the Zoning Board of Appeals, to apply the zoning bylaws for the town and consider requests for special permits, for variances, and appeals as provided by those bylaws, which have been approved by town meeting and by the Attorney General's office for the Commonwealth. So our decisions are made through a public hearing process. Our goal is to hear testimony from the applicants and from the public and allow full and fair discussion of each project prior to rendering a decision. To begin each hearing, I'll ask Kim, the clerk, to read a public announcement of the hearing and to present any pertinent information from the file, for example, referrals from town departments or summaries of correspondence that we received. And then we will grant the applicants or their representative 15 minutes to make a presentation. And that time may be extended by vote of the board, but our hope is that you can adequately present in 15 minutes. The board will then question the applicant, and then the public will be invited to comment. So if you wish to comment, please wait to be recognized by the chair, then go to the podium and state your name for the record and address your comments to the board. And we'll try to get answers or take into consideration your opinions when making our decisions. So your comments should be directed only at the project. Obviously, refrain from making any derogatory statements. And then, if the board feels we've had enough information to make a decision, we'll close the hearing and discuss it and have a vote. If we feel we need to continue the hearing, we will vote to do that and give you a time and date certain in the future when you can come back to hear additional testimony or discussion. We do require, these decisions do require supermajority, that is a vote of 4 to 1 would be in favor, a vote of 3 to 2 would not. Let me also introduce Sari Boudreau, who's our zoning administrator. Many of you probably met her, and Andrade Guy-Checker, who's our recording secretary tonight. So tonight we have one continuation and 5 new hearings. And I guess we're starting with the continuation, which is North Star Place LLC. And here for the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Stephen McKenzie here for North Star Place LLC. We're back again tonight after a meeting that we had last month in August. We listened to the board's concerns and questions, the concerns of the neighbors, as well as addressed the issues that the engineering division of the Department of Public Works had. And so we're pleased tonight, after meeting with our team, to present you with the revisions from the last hearing. I'm going to kind of outline those as we go. The first one, there was some concern about safety for children that may be walking out along through the driveway. And so we've added a sidewalk from the end of the parking all the way out to which is going to be a school bus bench area for kids waiting for the school bus. So this was for a safety concern. We've added a sidewalk in on the easterly side. Secondly, we relocated the utility pole, or we will be relocating the utility pole here to help with the access here and with the site, just loading distance up and down Bricktown Road. We've added a stop sign at the end of the driveway too, to remind people to stop so that they don't come right out onto Bricktown Road. We've submitted pictures of the LED lamp posts that are going to be out there, 8-foot-high lamp posts. Those show on the landscape plan. In addition to them interspersed along the common driveway, there will be lamp posts in front of each of the units. All of the lights, including the ones in front of the units, as well as the street lights, are all going to be on a common meter. So they'll all be on at the same time, they'll all be off at the same time. That's better for the development, and it provides more safety that you don't have to worry about if somebody's not home, they don't turn the light on, the lights will all be on at the same time and all off at the same time. We've also submitted pictures of the proposed fencing, the stockade fencing, which is going to run along this boundary between the Jamie Lane side. And there's also be, you'll see when we get to the landscape plan, there's going to be some privacy fencing between each of the units as well. We have a revised landscape plan that shows that. We've also added patios to each unit and a bulkhead for each unit. I'm going to take this plan out in just a second. We didn't have, the original concept was to build these on a slab, and there was mechanical room at the back, and we decided it'd be better to give everybody a basement. So we have a basement plan with individual bulkheads to each side, and then the privacy patio fencing will be between the two. That allows us to maintain the 2-hour fire rated wall with a solid wall between the two units. In addition to that, we've added 10 guest parking spots. We've added 7 up in this area here and 3 more back here. So in addition to the 40 spaces that's required under the code for the number of units we have an additional 10 guest parking spaces. Right now, should we get approval, we've been in contact with, and we have a proposal from the Barnstable Housing Authority to be the monitoring agent for this, and we also have Mayflower Homemakers Property Management Services of North Falmouth is going to be the property manager for the code. With the changes that we made by adding the bulkheads and adding the sidewalk and everything else, that increased our original lot coverage by structures, which was at 9.8%. It only brings it up to 10.0%, so 0.2% was the increase by those structures. And structures, paving, and parking went from 27.3% to 31.1%. Both of those considerably below what would be allowed for lot coverages. There are no changes other than the bulkheads and the basement to the plans themselves in the inclusion of the patios on each side. But I wanted to go through the landscape plan, and I apologize that I don't have a full-size copy. I know that there is in the file, but I only have a smaller copy here. So this shows the fence along Jamie Lane on this side. As we clear, we're going to start in the middle. Whatever trees can be retained along this side, we're going to keep as many mature trees as we can. Where there are bare areas, we will add in some additional trees. This shows the sidewalk. It shows a fence up here where the 2 signs are going to go on either side of the driveway coming in. It shows street lamp, essentially street lamp posts running through the development. It shows the 2 mailboxes in front of each unit because we've had contact with the Postal Service, and they are going to come in and provide mail service to the development. There's also the privacy fence in the back between the 2, as well as the patios. We've relocated the dumpsters so that they provide better access for the trash removal companies to come in and get them. And that's essentially all the changes. I think if you look at Scott, town engineers, a lot of Mike Boselli from Falmouth Engineering has addressed everything that Scott was looking for. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Should we start with your guys' end? Do you have further questions?
No, I don't have any questions, because you did the changes that I was going to ask about, so.
And I don't have any questions either.
I agree with the changes.
Tim?
You can always count on me for a talk.
We do have you for that.
So I think last time we were here, I had asked a question about some additional landscape buffering along that western property line, and I know you just said that you're going to be maintaining trees that you can and will be adding in trees. I guess it's turning into not a question. Is there any way that you could present plans showing which trees you're keeping or anticipate keeping, and just some additional trees that get taller than a fence to provide some additional buffering?
We could, if it's helpful to the board, we can do that as part of the final plans when they come in, which have to be approved by the board and everything else. We won't know until we start to clear. A lot of the trees that are along this side aren't the best trees. Some will come down just through the process of taking some of the trees down. So whatever trees, especially the mature trees that we can retain, those are going to be retained, and there'll be steps to retain those. Where we have larger bare areas, there will be additional trees planted.
Okay. And then I just had a question about the sidewalk. So I saw that you only put a sidewalk on a portion of the site, not in front of the houses, and I just wondered if extension of the sidewalk may be more suitable for pedestrians on site.
Well, we felt that the sidewalks in front of each of these units, and they could walk across like that.
Across, okay.
It's a driveway, so it's low speed, and we could even put up some speed limit signs on here. But we thought that it was safe enough to get to here, and then this was the path that everybody was driving in, that would be the best place to have the sidewalk.
Okay. All right, that's all I have for questions.
All right.
Oh, actually, one more. Who did you say the property manager was?
Mayflower Homemakers of North Falmouth, they're a property management firm.
TJ?
Just to clarify, with the proposed dumpsters, is there now a second location off that cul-de-sac?
There are two locations for the dumpsters, and that's more for convenience for the residents who are here. No, yeah. One here, one up here. So that way somebody who's down this end doesn't have to walk all the way up here and vice versa.
Thank you.
Anything, Jerry?
When you say the lights all come on and off at the same time, is that on at dusk and off at dawn, or?
Pretty much whatever's the safest time to do that, but having the property owner be responsible for that as a common meter makes it safer for the entire development.
And when you, on the trees that are yet to be identified, will they be at least 6-foot trees? 6 foot high?
That get put in, sure.
It just as a suggestion, if it's to keep
Yeah,
screening
the
and
fence,
buffering.
because the fence is going to be 6 feet, so the trees should
Okay.
be at least that high.
No further question.
Okay. Let's see if there's anything from the public. Yep, please come to the podium, state your name.
Hi, my name is Lori. I live on Sophie Lane. First, I want to...
Lori,
Weisman.
thank you.
And I want to thank the developer for the design. It seems to be that he really did take into consideration the surrounding houses and things like that. One of my questions is, if there are going to be any landscape changes where, oops, we do need to take more trees down than we thought, how would we be contacted so we can discuss it and have some input and things like that? If we, one of my concerns is that the trees do really create a great buffer from noise between Jamie Lane and now, of course, the development and Sandwich Road. So keeping as many trees as possible is really, really important to us that live on the road. So I guess my question is there a way that we can be contacted? What is the forum for us to find out exactly what trees, what changes might be done with the landscaping?
Okay, so this is probably the appropriate forum to express your concerns about that, and let's see if the applicant has any specific response.
Okay.
As we were saying, the Sophie Lane side has a lot of mature trees, so that it's different than the Jamie Lane side. If you recall, we have considerable setback from each of these foundations to the rear property line. So there should be very little impact to the existing trees that are there. But if we do have bare areas in there, in addition to the fences on the northerly side, there'll be some pieces of fence going in so that we create an even better buffer on that side. But there should be very little impact because our closest foundation, I think, is 39 feet from the property line. So even with the dig and the over dig, we're not going to approach anywhere near any of those mature trees. So the trees should stay intact.
Thank you very much. Another question about the, a drainage ditch was mentioned in the last meeting. And I had part of my question answered before the meeting started. Just some safety concerns for children that live on the property or that might be playing, in the development. It sounds like it's not really a big, it's got to have a lot of water going in, but just, any kind of concerns about mosquitoes and safety to children. That was my other question.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, The drainage swales, they're not really ditches, are designed to be grass, lawn.
Can you point them out on the plan?
Sure. There's a grass recharge area here and a grass recharge area here. They're designed to be more like a field grass area, and if constructed properly, have a subtle, depression. It's not a defined ditch that has, 5 or 6 feet. For instance, this one is basically like from the road surface to the grass down here is about 3 feet. So it's more of a depression that you try to make them not look like, oh, there's the drainage ditch. In fact, so I'm not concerned about safety or standing water.
Okay, that was my concern.
Right.
Yeah, they're designed not to have standing water. I mean, if we get 4 inches of rain like we did earlier this summer for a short period of time, they'll have some standing water, but they're designed to then recharge into the ground.
Okay, thank you. Does that address your questions?
It does, and I have one more comment. I wanted to thank the board for providing a forum for us to create concerns, and there was a little bit of controversy last time where we were invited to express our concerns, and we did, and one of the board members felt that it was offensive that we were expressing concerns. And I really don't want them to think that we're being, coming from a point of elitism or snobbery. I think it was just, we were talking from a point of, historically there have been problems in some areas where there's been drugs in a cul-de-sac, or there's been more crime, where there have been some renters. I'm a renter myself, so, and I also, when I moved to Falmouth, I looked for low-income housing and didn't find any. So I'm glad that there is some low-income housing going in. I just don't want, there to be this thought that we were expressing our concerns because we're a bunch of snobs and elitists. We really just wanted to, maintain our, our little piece of heaven in East Falmouth. So I just wanted to.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Yeah. And again, address your comments to the board, please.
Okay. My name is Kate Rodriguez, and I abut this.
Kate, can you say that one more time?
My name is Kate Rodriguez,
Rodriguez, okay.
and I live at 115 Brick Hill Road, which is going to abut this property. So I want to know, what is the fence going to be? How high is it going to be? What trees are going to be taken down? Are my trees going to be taken down? Because I have a lot of trees. I have 9/10 of an acre, which I've cleared almost half this summer and last summer. And I just want to know what I have to look forward to,
Okay.
or what I
Well,
have to regret.
nothing on your property should be touched, right? That's your property.
But-
The only thing that's going to be changed at all is the owner's property, the applicant's property.
So how much privacy am I going to lose?
Where's your property on,
She's right in front.
if you can look at the front plan, it's that big square right
That
there?
big white square is her property,
All right.
Yeah.
right here in front, huh? On this one. There you go.
This one right
This is Ms.
Yeah.
Rodriguez's property right here.
But I see those sticks and the things tied around my trees, and my grandson would like to know who's stealing our property. So I just want to make sure that I will have a surveyor come by, but I'd just like to know how tall the fence will be to protect our privacy on their part.
Okay, let's find out what the response is from them.
I'd be happy to answer that for Ms. Rodriguez. The only fence that's going to be along her property is there's a fence here, which is 6 foot high.
And then how high are the lights going to be?
The lights are 8 feet high.
So I'm going to see those lights beaming down.
They're very low-level LED lights, so they're not like a large street light you see downtown Falmouth or something like that. These are low-level lights. And also, if you look, Ms. Rodriguez's home, it sits very close to Brick Hill Road. There's considerable privacy. We're 250 feet back before we get to our first unit. There's tons of privacy. There's almost an acre of land. The structures are right out by Brick Hill Road.
Okay? Yep.
My name is Duncan Wells. I live on 78 Candace Way. My concern, I did a little preliminary research about how this development is going to affect property value. And I'm citing a Trulia article right now. And it states in Boston and Cambridge, Mass, however, low-income housing projects had a negative effect on nearby homes in terms of price per square foot, suggesting a region-specific market effect for this geographical area. And so I was just wondering, I apologize we were not able to make the first meeting. I don't know if this was discussed at all, but that is my one concern. And a lot of the articles I have read, it's kind of little to no effect on the value of houses, but I was just wondering if maybe you guys could speak to that, if there's any data, anything like that, that backs up or confirms or goes against that information.
I don't quite know how to respond to that. You know, this is a use allowed under Chapter 40B. Maybe Steve wants to talk about the mix of income levels in this development.
Yeah, that's all I was saying. We haven't, Boston and Cambridge may have had some experience with that. We haven't had that down here. In several of the Chapter 40B developments I put in, which were sales developments, the market rate units actually exceed the value of the surrounding houses. We had that on one of the first ones we did, and that was approved. Some of the folks, I think Ken, you were here, Gerloff Court. Our assessed values were going to be more than $100,000 higher than any of the surrounding houses. Several of the others that we've done, the market rate unit itself are higher. This is a rental development. Only 25% of these are going to be rented at an affordable rate. 75% will be rented at market rate units, which is no different than a regular market rate rental development. In this case, the affordable rates are very similar, very close to what the market rate units are. I don't see any negative impact on anybody's property value by putting this in here. This is, as you said, an allowed use under Chapter 40B, and I don't see any negative effect on any of its properties.
Okay, and as you point out, it's only 25% of these are going to be affordable.
And again, this is not low-income housing. This is affordable housing. These are people who have jobs, have good credit, members, contributing members of our community who don't make more than 80% of the median income. It's not being asked to be approved under Section 8 or any other type of housing program. This is Chapter 40B, and these are all people with good credit and jobs.
Okay. So hopefully that addresses that concern. Anything else? If there's no other comments, is the board satisfied we have enough information that we could close the hearing for now?
I am as well.
At present. All right, so I would entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second Ed's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we've heard considerable testimony. I think what we ought to be doing is directing Sari to prepare a motion and not voting the motion tonight. We want to see a draft of this motion.
I agree.
Maybe we can give her some guidance as to any conditions or what waivers, if any, we need,
Well, the waivers that they've asked for is for density.
Right, and that's just about the only thing, right?
Right, and then if you have any special conditions outside of what they've already discussed and what shows on the plans, then I'll need to know that. If not, then I'll go by what the plan states.
The only concern I'm hearing is...
that they're all preliminary plans.
That's right. The only concern I'm hearing is about the level of landscaping along the buffer.
Well, you can make a condition that, because remember, this is all preliminary. So a final landscape plan should be submitted to the board prior to issuance of a building permit. So, and you can review that, and at that point, you can either add or say it's okay. It's up to the board. And it should be done through the board, not through me.
I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, can we include some language, I know we can, about just trying to maintain the trees that are there, that we find it's important to the extent feasible, and then that any gaps or whatever the testimony was will be, that the, test, or.
The only
it's not
problem with
testimony,
that
but-
is whose discretion is the gaps?
Well, I
Because
just want it to be.
You have closed the public hearing, so I think what you need to do, and they said by that time, they may be able to see the trees, and they'll be able to put in either hedges or more trees that will grow into it, so that's the only thing with, I mean, I'll put that language in there, but it's a fine line as to discretion.
I agree with you. My concern is that I just want to preserve for the record that the intent of this board was that there be adequate buffering landscape screening, because when they come back with the final plans, this board makeup could have changed. So I want, no, I'm not suggesting that, but I'm just saying it could. It's
not gonna take
and
that
so, well, no, so then there's some preservation that we're basing our decision on the fact that there will be
I will
adequate
put that
screening. Yeah,
language in.
okay, thank you.
But
And
I
also
will
alerts
need
the
to have the
applicant.
language about gap.
Yeah, well, yeah, you don't have to put gap.
Mind the gap.
Mind the gap.
Okay, so I guess probably just a simple motion to direct you to prepare
And that way you'll get it previous, you can review it and add or eliminate some of the stuff that I put in there.
all right? Who wants to make that motion? Kim?
I will move that we approve application.
No.
Sorry. Move that we direct you to draft a favorable decision as discussed here.
And to bring back.
And to bring back before, so I apologize, for application 5717.
All right,
I'll
thank
second
you.
it.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion on this
I
at
had a
all?
quick, sometimes we do give drafts back to the proponent to take a look at. Is this one of those cases? I'm trying to think.
It's
where-
always, in any case.
Okay.
And there's other attorneys here who can verify that.
Okay,
I
so
always
that's
send a
standard.
draft to
Yeah.
them.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor of Kim's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Okay. So we will,
Who seconded that?
Ed
Ed.
second.
And just to, we didn't move to approve, just to draft I apologize for the misspeaking.
Thank you.
Okay.
Steve, is that yours as well?
And folks, if I can ask you, if you are going to talk, to please move away from the door, because we're going to continue on with our meeting.
All right, the next item.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Room clear.
sorry.
Okay, so our next hearing is 056-17 Aquatic Brewing LLC. And I guess there's a request in the file.
Oh, yes. Correspondence dated September 7th.
Can you read it into the record?
Oh, and then withdraw.
Yes,
So we
please.
have to open it.
Yes, you
Okay.
do.
All right, so being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Aquatic Brewing LLC of Woods Hole, Mass. applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Sections 240-3 and 240-18 of the Code of Falmouth to allow a brewery with retail sales on subject property known as 661 Main Street, Unit 6, Falmouth, Mass. And correspondence was submitted from attorney Kevin Clower. I can read your correspondence if you're comfortable to sit there. Dated September 7th, 2017, that says, Dear Ms. Boudreau, as we discussed, Rod Palmer, the Town of Falmouth Building Commissioner, recently issued a determination that the proposed use of the site, known as Unit 6, 661 Main Street, Falmouth, by Aquatic Brewing, does not require a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. A copy of that determination is attached here too. Based upon this determination, on behalf of the applicants, requested withdrawal without prejudice of the above-mentioned application. Thank you for your understanding.
Okay, so we need a motion to accept their request to withdraw without prejudice.
I will move to accept their withdrawal without prejudice.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded by Kim and Ed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. So that,
Thank you.
we will not be hearing that tonight.
I know you were looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to them opening.
Okay.
Okay, so the next hearing on the agenda is 057-17 Yellen, 19 Harbor Hill Road.
058, is it 058 or 057?
It says 058 on the
Okay.
agenda.
I just said 57, I apologize.
Can you wait?
Yeah. Backing up to the last brewery.
Oh.
I'm not clear on it. I'm not clear on.
What just happened?
Yeah.
The determination was made that they don't need a permit from us by the building commissioner. No one has appealed that, so we're letting them withdraw their application to us. And they'll have to, I'm not sure what other permits they might need, but
A building permit is what is going to be required.
Would there be another hearing as to neighbors' thoughts on it?
No, it would be, it's in front of the building commissioner
right.
for a building permit. So any comments would be directed towards them, although there is no hearing. They don't hold hearings because it's a by right use is what he's saying.
Because we got something in the mail about it, just come here and discuss it.
Right, and
At that time, we thought that they needed a permit from us. And then this letter came in, when, today?
September
Yes.
7th.
September 7th, saying, no, they don't need a permit from us according to the building commissioner.
the representative had met with the building commissioner and the determination was made after they submitted the application.
Okay, so it's a done deal.
Can I ask that people do not speak, please?
No, it's not open. What?
Yep, if you want to speak to the
Thank you.
attorney. Okay, so let's move on now then to Yellen, 19 Harbor Hill Road.
I just need to read it into the record. Yep. Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Jamie J. and Jonathan D. Yellen of Needham, Massachusetts, applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-3C of the Code of Falmouth to construct a partial second-floor addition creating habitable space and demolish the existing garage and in its place construct a sunroom within the pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling on subject property known as 19 Harbor Hill Road, Woods Hole, Massachusetts. For referrals, engineering had its standard comment. Also said, please make sure to clearly post house number visible from the street. Concom contains stormwater on property, gutters directed to dry wells. Fire department had no comment, assessors had no comment. Board of Health, I see. So they said initially the room labeled as an office meets the sanitary code qualifications of a bedroom, making this a 4-bedroom home. Basic review of the septic plans meet the minimum requirements necessary. They sent an email revising that. My statement must not have been clear enough, and the applicant is operating under the misconception that I had found an issue with it. To clarify, the preliminary review of the septic system plans included with the application meet the minimum requirements necessary. There are no issues from the Board of Health with their application. Planning had no comment, and there was one letter submitted with concerns and comments.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi. My name is Chris Harris. I'm an architect on the project with Salt Architecture. I'm here representing the homeowners, Jonathan and Jamie Yellen. Essentially, the scope of the project is a renovation to an existing one-story home. As was mentioned, we are proposing to demolish an existing garage, which is non-conforming on this corner to the side yard setback. That's the non-conforming portion of the house. And rebuilding habitable space on the existing foundation of the garage. Additionally, we are proposing a second floor over a portion of the footprint. It's essentially this piece here, which you can see in the elevations below. A couple of other items to point out. We are adding a stairwell to give access to the basement. That's an exterior stair, a new front stoop, and a new egress window well, again, to provide egress compliance to a bedroom in the basement. So currently, the square footage is 1,300 square feet, and with the proposed addition and sunroom, that takes the above-grade habitable square footage to about 2,200 square feet.
Okay. That it?
Any questions?
Let's see if there's questions. Jared?
I have no questions.
The nonconformity is the side setback off the garage. I assume that's going to remain the same?
Correct.
With the proposed sunroom?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
But you are demolishing the garage to put in this sunroom?
To the foundation.
To the
We're gonna
foundation.
go back on the existing foundation.
Kim?
That was my only question.
Okay. Let's see if Ed has it.
Yeah. When I was at the property earlier this week, I noticed there was all new stone to the left of the garage and down to the driveway. There was still some work going on. What was that all about?
They've had some landscaping work done over the summer. Part of it was putting new gravel down on the drive area.
Oh, they weren't burying anything.
And not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. All right, that's all.
Maybe that's where Jimmy Hoffa is.
No questions.
No, just, when they do the construction on something like this, how do they handle parking of construction vehicles? The road is just so tight there, and I noticed there's no parking signs on the street.
It's tricky. I mean, I don't know if you went by the site, but there's only really 2 parking spots in the driveway itself. Maybe 3 if you had small cars, but that's not going to be the case with the contractor. So I think that it's hard to address. I don't have a great answer for you. I think there's probably going to have to be contractor truck on. There's going to be something parked on the road at some point. There's just not enough
There's just no
space
space
in the
there.
house to do that.
Do you have a site plan you could put up, Chris?
So here's Harbor Hill Road, and the driveway, the parking area is essentially right here where they're showing the 2 parking spots. The rest of the front yard is pretty heavily vegetated with trees and shrubs. So that's really the only access point.
Folks, can I ask you please not to speak unless you're recognized, and then go to the podium? We're trying to conduct a meeting. If you want to talk, you can leave. Who was asking the question?
Oh, I think Suri has a question, or maybe.
No.
Bob?
Well, I was asking about the parking, she asked about the roadway. I just don't know what you can do safety-wise when they're doing construction there. You come up off of Woods Hole Road, it's that steep hill, and then you'll just hit this location, and even a small vehicle is gonna be in the middle of the road. I mean, I parked at the edge, and I was in the middle of the road, and I didn't have anywhere else to pull over to.
It is a public way, is it not?
What is the road layout? How wide is that road layout? Versus how much of it is paved? Because is it not
Well,
a,
the road layout is significantly wider than what's paved. There's another almost 10 feet on both sides
exactly?
from what's paved.
Okay, so only a middle portion of it, say approximately 20 feet is paved, because it is
Yeah,
a very tight
correct.
pavement, but there is 10 feet on each side of the paved road that is the road layout, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. On this, in their front yard area, most of that is trees and vegetation. Just beyond the driveway, it's a little more clear there. So I do think there's probably space there that you could, you know, be off the pavement more and pushed into kind of the side area there.
It might behoove somebody to stake that road layout so that any type of construction trucks will be able to see what actually is the road layout. So people don't think that anybody is parking on their front yard when in actuality, it's not their front yard, it's the road layout. That might be something that might make sense.
Sure.
Maybe even engineering might be able to give you an idea as well.
I mean, I would imagine, it seems to me, in Woods Hole, this is kind of the situation throughout.
Right, but that is a very,
most of the town.
very narrow area,
Sure.
and it's very hard to trespass, so,
Yeah, we could talk to.
traverse, excuse me.
Easy.
Trying to avoid the
No
trespass.
I won't
trespass.
put that word in there, but it's, so I know the people's concern, I know that I use it when I go
Sure.
to Woods Hole, and quite often, like, there was a gas truck there one day, and I could hardly pass.
Mhm.
So somebody had to guide me around that truck. So I know what the neighbors' concerns are, so I think
Well,
it's
we're
important that that road layout is stayed.
Certainly open to trying to clear a portion of this too, to kind of make, I mean, I think you could probably almost fit 2 spots there to the property line, if we were to clear some of the
Yeah, but as long as it's
vegetation
not
here.
on anybody else's property, 'cause
Right.
you don't want that
Yeah.
issue being raised. Thank you, Ken.
Okay, so let's see, where were we? We had, so, back to Kim.
Okay. So can you just, I guess, describe the changes being made in the basement?
Sure. The basement is currently unfinished, and we are proposing, so it's only one basement from here, but we're proposing to create just a living space and then 1 bedroom with a bathroom.
In that storage area, I guess it's,
It's just open
okay, so that will be open to the hallway and the family
to
room?
the common area, correct?
Okay. And then the total height of the, oh, I have a couple other. So the total height, I just wanted to confirm it, that's 30 feet, 7.5 inches?
It's
Or is it 33
No,
feet,
it's
6
actually
inches?
30
I just don't understand that.
32 feet from the natural grade.
Okay, so I guess I just need, I don't know if we have the same plan. So it says roof TO ridge 30 feet, 7.5 inches, and then max building height 33 feet, 6 inches.
So this dimension here is measured from the
Oh, so-
first floor, and the mean grade is actually 1 foot 6 below that. So that's how I come up with the 32 feet. It's a little clear on this dimension.
Why is the max building height?
Because this 33.6 is referencing the 0 point, which is the subfloor,
I
not the main grade, which is actually
Okay.
lower.
All right.
So here's mean natural grade. There's the top of the bridge.
So that looks like 30.
So that's 32, 1.5 from there to there.
And the max building height?
That's the max building height, the top.
What's that
grade.
thing there?
And that's the max allowable building.
Oh!
Yeah.
Okay,
well, either way, it's under, but
Yeah.
just trying to clarify. And then, I'm just gonna move on. So you're adding front entry steps. Do you know what those are, setback from the front yard? There's
I
just,
do not have that dimension on here. No. It looks like if you follow the property line, so the civil engineer had dimensioned this nearest point of the house, which is 25 feet, 8 inches.
yeah.
So that's the only dimension that was provided, because that's the nearest point. That's this point here.
Okay, so I guess I have a question about that then. So you're oh, that's existing. Is that the overhang that's being shown?
Yeah,
in
that other dashed part they included, or shaded part, is the overhang above the roof of the house.
Oh, just the window bay, is that what it is, or the? I just don't I mean, it looks like it's getting closer
That's the
in that corner.
existing roof line here. That existing roof overhang is what they're showing with that other line,
Okay.
which is staying as it is.
So you don't measure from the overhang, you measure from the, okay. Because it looks closer than 25
Depends on the
feet.
size of the overhang, but this one's open.
Okay,
So the nonconformity is,
just the side
The
yard.
garage.
That corner of the
right,
garage.
and no other nonconformities are created.
Correct.
That's all I have.
TJ?
No more questions?
No
Jerry,
questions.
anything? Okay, let's see what the public wants to say. Anybody? Please go to the podium and address the board with your concerns.
My name is Nicole Goldman, and I live at 12 Sydney Street, and I'm in a butter. I wrote you the letter that you have in your record. I'm glad that you, Mr. Dugan, brought up the point about the parking vehicles. It's one of our concerns. This is a very small lot that they're trying to put a lot of house on. You respect their right to do so. As it is non-conforming, it's very close in setbacks to all of the houses nearby. Whether non-conforming or not. This point here, yes, I believe is less than 8 feet from someone's house, and I'm just concerned also to see the new bump out here, which actually pokes its way sideward, not creating new footprint, but encroaching closer to our house. They did a huge amount of landscaping this summer, and went about it in a very, I think, unrespectful way to the neighbors. We're asking that going forward, there are certain conditions that are put onto the project, or certain requests that are made of the owners with regard to their construction. We'd like to make sure that, for instance, that construction is done by licensed contractors. We have a lot of people who were moonlighting, and while, again, I respect the people's right to do moonlighting, it was very disruptive to the neighborhood. Work was going on from 4 to 8 p.m., and on several occasions, there were backup equipment, or equipment backing up with alarms going off at 10:30 at night. This is a very thickly settled, densely populated area with year-round residents, and I was disturbed that their disrespect for our quiet enjoyment at home. We'd also like to limit, therefore, the construction to regular business hours, and not to have construction on Sundays, and to limit to Saturday mornings. We would like all the construction vehicles to be confined to the property, and while Chris was explaining that the front yard has a lot of trees, really the front yard was stripped of almost all of the trees, and they could easily park on that area for the construction vehicles. I am concerned about, certainly when we have winter weather, that road is not one of the immediate ones that is plowed, and it's a two-way street. and it's going to be impassable if their construction vehicles are there. And finally, the thing that we'd like to ask about, since they did a huge amount of cutting and took out almost all the greenery, the natural greenery that was there, we'd like to learn of their plans, or ask them to give us an idea of how they will replace some of the natural buffers that they took out, or else put in some new fencing. They're building now, since they took out all the greenery, there are lights shining into our property and certainly my neighbors' properties. They can also see directly into my house. It's very disturbing, lack of privacy, and I think they should take some measures to address those concerns for our privacy and for their privacy in the future. So, any questions?
Okay. Well, let's see if Chris can address directly some of your concerns.
I guess going back to parking, we're certainly open to finding a way to, like I'd mentioned, maybe create a spot for at least 2 parking spots that are out of the roadway, out of the paved area as much as possible. I'm not sure that it's realistic to be able to park in the front yard just in terms of being able to move around the house during construction. There's not a lot of space there, and I think trying to get equipment and having guys working around there is potentially a safety issue for the people working on the site. So again, if we could find a way to fit a couple of parking spaces, create those, we're happy to do that. In terms of the working hours, again, I think the homeowner is open to conditioning the working hours to 7 to 7, 7 to 6. Saturdays are a little difficult, I think, because guys lose days in the wintertime on snow days, and Saturdays can be a good way to make up time to help keep the schedule in check. So I'm not sure if that's realistic to limit the just to the morning hours on a Saturday. I think maybe if we could condition it to be the 7 to 7 Monday through Saturday, that's. In terms of the landscaping, I don't know how many of you have visited the site, but the homeowners have already reinstalled a large, or I should say, a long row of arborvitae along the kind of south property line, and along the east property line, they've replanted with quite a few shrubs and smaller trees. So they're certainly interested in having privacy. They don't want everyone looking into their house either. But this house had no landscaping done for the last 20 or 30 years. So their goal was to try and clean it up, get a yard back for the house, and they've already started replanting it and plan on doing so. Also, the front street along the frontage, as I mentioned, has considerable amount of trees, shrubs. They did cut about a 6-foot wide path to get a bobcat access, and they're planning to replant that area as well.
What would you think about something like 7 to 3 on Saturdays?
I think, yeah, we could do that.
Okay, I guess that addresses most of those concerns. I think in terms of the, and Sri can correct me if I'm wrong, in terms of the contractors working on the site, they need to meet building codes.
Right, they'll be pulling,
and they'll be inspected and so forth.
Pull a building permit, so it will be a licensed
yeah.
general contractor to do that. In terms of the size of the proposed house, currently the structure covers 15.88%. The proposed is 16.03. So that's a pretty insignificant in terms of footprint. And in terms of square footage, as I've mentioned, the above grade square footage will be about 2,300 square feet. I know the neighbor to the south is around 4,000 square feet.
Oh,
And-
can you speak up a little? Some of the folks are having a hard time.
Okay, sure.
That microphone does not amplify
All right.
for in here.
So the neighbor to the south is about 4,000 square feet, and there are several other houses in the area that are in the 2,000 to 2,500 square feet. So I think it's pretty reasonably sized for the lot and for the neighborhood.
Okay. You can. Wait, Chris, are you done?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. Thanks.
Would you like to speak, sir?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I'm Tom Mosley, 9 Strawberry Hill Road. And from my second floor and from my first floor, I can look right through their patio and see their windows. There's no privacy at all. Landscaping is very important to me, that blocks it off. The lights are warning lights, or just like a searchlight, coming from their house every night into my house. That should be modified. I'm not sure what the rules are for construction during the day, but I believe it should never extend up until 6 o'clock, 5:30, with a machine working on the patio and the noise coming right through my house. I think that the landscaping is very important. The timing of the noise elements is very important. That they do it during construction approved hours. I'm not sure whether the owner got a low bid or what, but 2 young men used equipment during these bad hours. And when I approached them, they said, well, that's when we can get the equipment. Well, that's a legitimate reason if they can have to jockey time, but they still shouldn't jeopardize the time when people are preparing meals or sitting down for supper. I think a lot of what I would say has been reiterated earlier, but that's what I wanted people to know.
Okay.
I just had one other comment. There was also a situation during the summer, for instance, where construction dust was being wafting over to other people's properties. Again, that I'm going to attribute that to the sort of unprofessional level of that they engaged to work on their property. So I'm assuming that that would not happen, but they did not take the necessary safety precautions. So they're endangering, other people with their construction duties. So I guess the message that you're hearing is that it was just very intrusive and it sort of bordered on abusive of people's goodwill. People put up with a lot, and we were just tired of it by the end of it, and it's still not even done. And with regard to the parking, again, on the property, what they did with the front yard, though, is they mostly put in gravel, as far as I can see. So there's plenty of places for them to put vehicles, and there were plenty of vehicles that they were riding all the way around that property. I can't imagine that that would be any hindrance whatsoever for them. So I don't think that particular concern of ours should be any problem having them implement that. So.
Okay. All right. I think we've heard your concerns about the way the project is proceeding and being constructed, and we can try to include some conditions to address those.
And I wanted to mention, I think the homeowners initially were not aware of that these contractors were working those hours, and when they were made aware of it, they took measures to make sure that it didn't happen again. So that was that, as far as I know, that's what they had.
What's left to do outside?
Well, I think all that's left at this point is to seed the lawn in the front yard.
So the remaining work will be interior work?
There's, well, until the construction project starts, correct.
Okay. All right, is there any other?
I do have a question. What time, so if you get approved tonight, you move forward, how quickly do you anticipate starting the construction project?
Well, the goal would be to start this fall, probably, I don't know, November, by the time everything kind of goes through.
Hopefully be finished before next summer when there's
Right.
open windows and things like that.
Yes, that would
Right,
definitely be the
and
goal.
it gets dark by
Yeah, I mean, if it's helpful, I
4:30,
think
5 o'clock.
7 to 6 is, you know, a reasonable change as well. Be happy to do that.
Okay. If there's no further comment from the public and no further comment from the board, we could close this.
Make a motion to close?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Discussion?
Yeah, I'll just jump in and just say a couple of things. I think I'm certainly sensitive to the concerns raised by the neighbors in terms of their experiences thus far for the landscaping project outside. With that said, I think that the project as proposed is pretty reasonable, not substantially more detrimental in terms of what's there. The lot coverage, you're allowed as of right up to 20%, they're going to 16%. You're allowed for total lot coverage up to 40, they're going to 27.3. You know, it's only a partial second floor. I would have liked to have seen some, I guess, increase in setback on that side yard, but it makes sense why that's not happening because they're maintaining the garage foundation there. So I think that makes sense in terms of how they're remodeling, and they're not going up in that area. It's not as if they're adding a second floor. So I think overall, it's a good project. I think some of the suggestions in terms of construction hours, which we usually don't put on as a condition for single-family homeowners, so I think it is a concession. Well, I mean, you know, I think it's a nice gesture by the applicant that they're willing to do that. I think we should address some maybe landscaping to ensure that there's adequate landscaping, and we can address the parking maintained on site too. So.
Okay. Sounds like you're interested in making a motion.
Well, no, I didn't know if other people would say so
Yeah,
too. I
let's
was
see
just
whether anyone else has.
starting the discussion.
That was good.
Yeah. You know, I just want to point out, I believe this is before the board because it's 7.1 feet from the side property line. Is that the only nonconformity? So, you know, if that were, if they could have gotten 10 feet from the property line, would they be before the board? All right, so, but for 2.9 feet, this could have been allowed as a matter of right, and it's very, conditioning hours of construction are very difficult to do. We can put those restrictions on, but by the time the complaint is filed, you know, it's generally, the building inspector's gone home. It's just very difficult to get enforcement, you know? So I just want to make that point, but for 2.9 feet, none of this would even matter because it would be allowed by right. So I just want to, I don't want to get too crazy on conditioning hours of construction, provided you know, provided obviously that, you know, there shouldn't be much going on after 7, but contractors don't work that late anyway, generally. So I don't know. I just wanted to make the point that it's narrowly before the board.
Yeah. But the applicant has expressed a willingness to limit construction
Oh, yeah.
hours to 6, and that, you know, I think, I'm sure the folks building this would like to be good neighbors, so I think, you know,
They're trying.
it probably goes towards helping ameliorate some of the concerns that they've had, if we can include those conditions. But other than that, I agree with Kim that the project itself is moderate in scope and certainly within the kinds of things that we typically approve.
For clarification, normally, Sundays we said no, I don't think anybody's going to be there on Thanksgiving, but there could be holidays that fall during the week. And I'm assuming they will be allowed to utilize those days.
I put down no holidays and no Sundays on my notes here, Jerry.
But you didn't say it.
I didn't say it.
But she
that
hasn't made
was-
the motion
I
yet.
haven't made the motion.
Oh, okay.
But I was going in that direction too. You think that?
No,
would be-
well, I think it should be clear. I mean,
Yes,
I
yes.
think, no one's going to work on, the other days, I don't think it's that
The thing is, a
significant.
lot of them aren't holidays for
Yes,
everybody.
that's right.
Like the town gets all those holidays off, but all the banks, the stores, stuff like that, and contractors don't get those Mondays off.
I just want to make sure it's clear that it's, unless we define the holidays.
No, we don't want to get into that.
What do we usually say in these
We don't.
limitations of hours?
We don't.
We don't say no holidays?
No, we've never discussed holidays.
No, I
I mean,
think we
it's
usually
common
did.
sense not to work on Christmas, New
Right,
Year's,
yeah.
Easter, and, Thanksgiving. But the
What with the
Friday,
poor contractor
the
that has
Friday
to
and
do that?
Saturday after,
Yeah.
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 I'm sure they don't want to be there.
Yeah, no, I
During the
agree.
winter,
I
we
just
had
thought that was the
people
language
working on-
we usually use.
They were working on the houses on Labor Day.
Yeah,
around
I
us.
just wanted to be clear for the neighbors if all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's limited to days then.
Okay, so
I'll make a motion to approve application number 5817.
I'll second it.
and findings?
Oh, that's right, I have to do findings. So, the only nonconformity is the 7.1 foot setback, that is remaining, because they're maintaining the foundation in that area. Oh, geez, I didn't prep any, usually I prep some. That increased utilization for the family, their, testimony was that one bedroom in the basement. I think that's important, just given that
I think the
storage
bedroom
area.
count, let's see,
It's 4, wasn't it?
Yes, 4. It's 4, right? Yeah. 4 bedrooms.
It's not more detrimental.
Yeah, not 24216. Any really other ones? I guess
think
a
they need to-
testimony that there was
They're
concern.
amenable to changing
Yes.
construction hours and trying to maintain contractors on site.
Yes.
that's the existence.
And I think it would be good to also just have as a finding that there was testimony that there was concern from neighbors relative to hours of construction.
Go in the basement.
And that they're and the applicant is amenable to limiting hours of construction. Sorry, I thought your suggestion about staking the road layout was a good one. Maybe prior to construction, I don't know if everybody else agrees with
Yeah,
that too.
just put it in conditions.
Yeah.
Is it had him staking the client's property or our town engineer staking the road? I would think it should be
You
staking the
can stake
property.
it right
Yeah.
from their bounds.
Yeah,
from
that's,
their-
okay, their property.
From their corner bounds,
Right.
yes.
Yes.
I would also stake in the road across the street so they could see as well. As long as you're not, the thing is, a lot of these people, and as you can see on this site plan, their yard goes into the road layout as well.
Half of Falmouth does.
Everybody, yeah, hello, look at the heights. So people don't realize that part of their front yard is in the road layout.
Okay, so the findings. Did you make conditions?
No, I
Excuse me,
think
do
we
you want
might
to
make
make
more
a
findings.
finding that the abutters are concerned with landscaping? This board usually doesn't get involved with the landscaping
Yeah.
on residential properties, because it's up to,
Why don't we make the finding, but we also, because I think it's important to make the finding that testimony was that there's a plan, at least that,
Right.
that they have, that they
And-
want to maintain the landscaping and
And
rebed-
about the-
Restore landscape.
Right.
what about the motion sensor lights that come on that were complained about?
Keep light spill on property, do you want?
Well, I think if it is spilling in, I know some of those motion sensors come out across everybody. If they can keep it low level so
Adjustable.
it doesn't impact the neighbors. Lighting is different than landscaping. Landscape's
On
your own property.
Yep.
But the lighting, when it affects others, you might want to say that there was a finding on that and
That lighting
see
can be
if-
adjusted.
Yep.
Right,
We just need to
Or
keep it on the
shielded.
property.
Yep.
right.
So I think then the finding would be testimony to the effect that concerns about light spill
Yeah.
onto property.
And I believe he meant motion sensor, right?
It was a large rear light.
Said alarm, so I would assume it was
Yeah.
motion.
Warning, he called it a warning light.
I would, I mean, relatively modest increase in lot coverage. It's still, I don't know if we usually make a finding to that effect, but,
Yeah, I usually do. I put that in the findings.
okay.
I say it goes from this to that.
Any others?
I think their bedroom count is 3.
That is street.
Oh.
Oh,
And I think it was 3 in the old house. so
Yes.
They're maintaining it
Oh,
as,
that's
Yes.
right, they took one out. Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
so I think that's it.
Conditions per plans. Obviously, the hours of construction, so what did we say, 7 to 6, Monday through Friday, and 7 to 3 on Saturdays?
Yes.
I go later, but if that's what you're
You
comfortable
know,
with.
I'd like to give some benefit to the concerns of the abutters, and the applicant said that sounded okay, so.
Okay, and no construction on Sundays. Condition, or I guess ensure no light spill onto neighboring properties.
So maintain light so as to no exterior light.
Mhm.
Stake out the road.
How do I say?
I guess we said, I don't think we can, well,
What?
I think we condition, that they stake the road layout on the front property boundary.
Between the two side yard bounds?
Yes.
But it's not their job to clear the road, is it?
No, I'm not saying they do, but it'll give them
They could
some
park.
insight as to where they can
They can
park
pull a
and
truck
not be
up
in the
in there.
paved way.
Yeah.
You got another 10 feet.
So can we make a condition they stay out of the paved way? Because that is a hard road,
It is a very hard road.
and, you know, it's
That they not park on the
All
paved area?
construction vehicles,
off the pavement.
Yeah, because you made a finding that they should stake the road layout.
yeah.
Yes.
So, and I can add to that finding that only the middle of the road layout appears to be paved. So if you can make a condition that they do not park on the paved area,
Right.
Paved portion.
That
of
might
It is a
the road.
safety concern.
Yeah.
I can
Right.
tell you, I've driven on that road a lot, so.
I'm still working on the exterior light, so
Well, we can work that.
not.
I don't know how you prevent someone from seeing it from there. You know, the light's on, I can see that light right
Yeah,
now.
there's a difference between a light being on and a light spilling onto
This is a warning
property.
light, so I'm assuming he's saying the motion sensor light that comes on, that shines, and they do it for animals as well.
Oh, no, mine comes on.
But to keep it on,
Yeah, that has, I mean,
You say no-
you
no
can
direct
create
lighting?
a lighting plan and see what
to
spills.
not impact the butters,
Right.
keep on site or something,
It
I
has,
don't know.
yeah, it
I'll
has to
think
do
about that.
light
okay?
spill.
It might be an architectural term or something.
So no construction vehicles to park on
Paving.
Paved portion of the way.
paved, thank you. Paved portion of road layout. Right?
Hmm?
Mhm.
Anything else?
No more than 3 bedrooms?
Okay.
Ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to get through the
I-
next one?
No, that's okay. I have a request for that we take a short recess, so we'll take a short recess. Go. 509 Davisville Road in East Falmouth.
I forgot, I was the clerk for a second there, okay. Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that John H. Driscoll Jr., trustee of Glastonbury, Connecticut, applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-3C of the Code of Falmouth to construct dormers, a screen porch, and in addition creating habitable space within the pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling on subject property known as 509 Davisville Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For referrals, assessors, no comment. Concom located within flood zone A must file administrative review. Fire department, no comment. Planning, no comment. I think that was everything.
Okay. And for the applicant, it looks like we have Attorney Clower here, so.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with Clower Law Firm here in Falmouth. I represent John H. Driscoll, 509 Davisville Nominee Trust. He's the owner of the property and the applicant in this matter. The subject property is, not surprisingly, 509 Davisville Road, which is located on the southern side of Minot Road in East Falmouth. It's a house that was built in approximately 1850 on a lot of 21,638 square feet, and it's located in the residential B zoning district. Currently, this property has a two-bedroom, two-story dwelling with a footprint by structures of 1684. The height of the building is 21 feet 1 inch, and there is also a detached garage on site. The dwelling is non-conforming as to the front yard setback, being 21.4 feet, where 25 feet is required by the bylaw. It is otherwise conforming to rear and side yard setbacks as well as lot coverage by structure. The applicant is seeking permission for renovations to the structure in addition to the dwelling. This addition will increase both the interior and exterior living space. It will improve aesthetics, comfort, and functionality of the home. The proposed addition, however, will not impact the nonconformity. It is located entirely to the rear of the structure. It will increase lot coverage, but the resulting lot coverage will only be 11.3%, well below the 20% that is allowed by right. The roof line will remain the same at 21 feet 1 inch, again well below the 35 feet allowed. However, due to the existing nonconformity, this proposal does require a special permit under Section 240-3C of the bylaw, which allows for pre-existing non-conforming structures to be changed by special permit of this board, provided they're not substantially more detrimental than what currently exists. The board is tasked to consider the standards of 240-216 and whether the alteration creates a new dimensional nonconformity, impairs the views of vistas, or does not reasonably conform to the average dimensions found in the neighborhood. Here, the only existing nonconformity is unchanged. As I mentioned, the entire addition is located at the rear of the home. There is no new dimensional nonconformity being created. There are no detriments to this project relative to the existing structure. There's no adverse effects. There's no new dimensional nonconformity, as I mentioned. There's no impact on views of vistas. It does reasonably conform to the average sizes in the neighborhood, and it also meets the standards of 240-216. I will likely regret saying this, but this appears to be a relatively straightforward application. Based on the information I've presented, I'd ask that you grant a special permit. I'd be glad to address any questions you might have at this time.
Okay, let's see if there are any. Robert, anything?
No, no questions.
No questions.
Just one question on the notes, and the general notes, note number 4. It says this lot does not lie within the Falmouth High Wind District, 1 mile. I think the word "not" shouldn't be in there.
Noted.
That's all I have.
I will reprimand the engineer later. I will reprimand the engineer later. And,
Just a nitpicking detail.
Kim, are you ready?
I am, yeah. So currently 3 bedrooms?
The existing floor plan mislabels the first floor as a bedroom. It is not a bedroom. It currently has a 2-bedroom dwelling. That is not a bedroom, as there's no real privacy. Bedrooms don't typically have a pass-through like that. So it's labeled as a bedroom on the plan, but it is in fact a den. It wouldn't be classified as a bedroom under the Board of Health regulations.
Okay. So 2 bedrooms staying 2 bedrooms.
Correct.
And you said that the new addition will have a ridge height 21 feet 1 inch?
Correct.
I think that's everything that I have.
Okay, anything, TJ?
No questions.
No question.
I don't have any questions. Well, I do have, the only thing was the Conservation Commission referral. What was that?
To be quite honest, I don't know. I will ask the engineer. I'm not generally privy to an administrative application because it's typically handled just by the engineer directly with Conservation Commission. So I'm not quite sure the outcome of it. However, if they didn't approve it by administrative, they'd require us either to do an RDA or a notice of intent, which would still be caught through the building permit process, and there's really no avoiding that. So.
Okay. So I think you've heard all the board comments and questions. I wonder if anyone in the public wants to comment on this project. Doesn't look like it. So has the board have enough information?
Yes.
Yes.
I would entertain a motion to close.
I'll make the motion to close.
Ed, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ed and TJ, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And what's the pleasure of the board with respect to this project?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, so we have Kim and Ed moving to approve findings.
2 bedrooms, remaining 2 bedrooms. Ridge height is currently 21 feet 1 inch, and that's remaining the same on both the existing structure and the new addition. The front yard setback is 21.4 feet. That's the only nonconformity, and there's no change to that. Will be still, I think it was, I don't have the exact number written down. Lot coverage will be, what was it, something in 11.3, oh, that's total lot
That's
coverage
total.
too.
9.7.
9.7 by structures, which is still well within the range. 240, 216,
And not more detrimental.
not more detrimental. I don't think of, I already said 2 bedrooms remain 2 bedrooms. Any others?
I think it's, I mean, at the risk of reprising Attorney Clower's comments, it is a fairly straightforward application.
Yes. And conditions per plans, no more than 2 bedrooms.
We don't know what the septic is.
Oh, that is true. So we'll just say per plans.
We don't know what the septic capacity.
Capacity is.
But the finding is 2-bedroom, remaining 2 bedrooms, so.
Yeah.
And down under 240, 216, if we did not receive a referral from the Board of Health, it is mentioned, and I state that it has to be signed by the Board of Health prior to issuance of a building permit. That's a standard that I do.
Your note here, Sri, I apologize, says Board of Health is highlighted and that says via email above. Does that mean we received something back via
There
email
must
that I
be.
just didn't read?
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen that one, so.
Okay. Looking for, not that. I'm not seeing it in here, and it wasn't where it would usually be, so.
Highlighted just means that they were sent one. If there's not a
Okay.
check
Oh,
mark
so you just
through
sent it via,
Yeah.
okay, understood. Okay, so just per plans then. All right.
So condition is per plan, and the findings as noted, and then I guess we're probably ready to vote this. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the fourth public hearing tonight, which is Chappie LLC, 100 Dillingham Avenue in Falmouth.
And I'm recusing from this one.
Okay, so why don't I appoint Paul to be the clerk?
Sounds good.
And we will need an alternate member, correct? So,
Yes.
how about Robin?
Rob Dugan?
I'm leaving.
So it's
You leaving for good?
No, just for this.
So you need to read the announcement.
Sure. Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you're hereby notified that Chappie LLC of North Falmouth, Mass. applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Sections 240-3 and 240-51A5 of the Code of Falmouth to construct an addition to the existing building creating 5 apartment units and construct 1 additional building creating 2 apartment units on subject property known as 100 Dillingham Ave, Falmouth, Mass. For correspondence, board referrals. Fire Department, you guys want me to read this? Dear Board, this correspondence concerns appeal number 061-17, the proposed project by Chappie LLC at 100 Dillingham Ave in Falmouth. Per the Massachusetts Building Code 780 CMR and Massachusetts Fire Prevention Laws MGL Chapter 148, both buildings will be required to have an automatic fire sprinkler system and an automatic fire detection system installed. Both of these systems in each building are required to be monitored either by the municipal fire alarm system or a central station monitoring company. We will also require a Knox box key entry system be installed in each building for emergency after hours access. The location of the hydrant and emergency vehicle access have been addressed during site plan review. Sincerely, Lieutenant Mel Trott. Assessors, no comment. Planning, the applicant filed a site plan review application with the planning board and is scheduled for the August 29th, 2017 agenda. Is that letters? What do we have for letters?
That one right there stated concerns,
Oh, yeah, all
and there
right.
is the planning board site plan review underneath that, I believe.
All right, this one stated concerns, and then we have a planning board site plan review. And I think that's,
I don't believe there are any.
yeah, that's it. Okay. Pass out the plans, if anyone would like one.
Excuse me, is it possible not to turn the heat up so the air conditioner is just coming on and it's freezing in here?
It's locked.
I don't have any control.
Probably
over it. I don't know
automated.
if there's a key there.
Yeah, it's probably set.
I guess it's not. But you could move to a warmer spot. Laura, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Laura Moynihan, attorney from Falmouth. I represent the applicant, Chappie LLC, which is a Massachusetts limited liability company. The principal is Warren Dalton, who is here tonight with us. And Mike Roselli is the engineer responsible for the project, and he is here as well. Warren lives in Falmouth and has developed other projects that have been approved through this board. So some of you may remember him, and his projects have all turned out very well. Anyway, we're here tonight because this, what we call the Nimrod Renovation Project, requires a special permit for the 7 apartments that are proposed. There's also a slight nonconformity with the existing parking lot. The existing parking lot does not meet the setbacks in the rear and in the front. So because of that, it's a section 240-3 application to alter or modify that existing non-conforming parking lot. Other than that, we wouldn't be here. It would be a by right application in a B3 business district, and with the uses, the commercial uses being permitted by right in the district. So this property, as I mentioned, is zone B3. The assessor's records indicate 5 apartments on the upper floors of the Nimrod building. The place is in very bad condition. There are, in fact, small dwelling units in the building. The building had been foreclosed upon by the bank that held the mortgage, and there were people holding over and living in the building, and they had to be evicted. So there has been traditional residential use in the building. There was also a use variance. It's variance 2647 that was granted many years ago by the Zoning Board of Appeals for an in-use. So as I'm sure that you know, this is, of course, the site of the historic Nimrod building. It has housed a restaurant for many, many years. The building history is obviously very significant. The British warship, the Nimrod, fired on this building during the War of 1812, and a cannonball hit the building. So it's one of 3 buildings that I can find from my research that still remain in Falmouth that were hit by British cannonballs during that war. The other being the Elm Arch Inn and the Captain Crocker House, which is now Shoreway Acres. So the building was moved to this location many, many years ago. It is listed on the town's cultural resources inventory as a significant building. It's not in a historic district, however, so it's not subject to any jurisdiction of formally of the Historical Commission as far as the renovation goes. However, it is subject to the demolition delay bylaw if it was going to be demolished, which would mean it would be reviewed. A demolition permit has, in fact, been issued for the building. That was issued quite some time ago. This particular developer, Mr. Dalton, has worked with the community now for a couple of years, and Historical Commission representatives and other community representatives to try and save the Nimrod building rather than demolish it. The building is in very bad shape. So the most obvious course of action is to take it down, which would be cheaper, quite frankly. But this particular gentleman has decided to try and do something good here for the community, work with the preservationists and try and come up with a project that can work economically in order to save the building and put in a lot of money to renovate it. It needs foundation work, framing, beams, new roof, siding, windows, fire protection, plumbing, electrical, the whole 9 yards. So a very expensive renovation. And it's more costly to renovate it, obviously, than to take it down and rebuild it. But I explain that because obviously there's an economic viability issue here. And that's why you see the additional building being proposed, which would house apartments as well as additional commercial space to try and make the site economically viable, repay the debt for the financing to construct the project. So that's the general intro. I do have a breakdown sheet of square footage, which I'll just file for your record. It's just data, but it's, who's the clerk tonight?
Clerk is
Mr.
Paul.
Murphy. There you
Thanks,
go.
Lauren.
Okay. So we have,
Thanks, Ed.
in the existing Nimrod building with the addition that's proposed, there would be 5 apartments. 1 2-bedroom apartment on the first floor, 4 on the second floor, 2 2-bedrooms, and 2 3-bedrooms. There would be 3 commercial tenant spaces proposed in that building. The height of the building meets the zoning bylaw, about 28 feet. The total square footage in that new renovated building would be 7,986 square feet overall. The new building will have 2 apartments, 2 two-bedroom apartments on the second floor, and the first floor would be 4 commercial spaces for tenants. The total square footage there would be 8,983 square feet. So the sheet that I've just handed in for the record just outlines what I just said. The existing square footage is about 7,700 square feet, according to the assessor's records. So the total commercial space is about 9,500 for the proposed, and the total proposed residential is about 7,400 square feet. All right, so the zoning bylaw allows a density of up to 6 units per acre for the apartments. Again, we're here for the apartment special permit, not to approve the commercial uses, but obviously there's an analysis of the impacts of those on the residential units. But we do meet the density, 1.29 acres for this site. As I mentioned, the parking lot does not meet the current setback. In this location in the back, you can see on your site plans there's a faint line that outlines the existing paved parking area. So we're altering that. I think with the new site plan, we're obviously cleaning up the site tremendously, improving the parking lot, improving the drainage, containing the stormwater on site. So all of those things are a benefit here. As far as the parking goes, the calculation on the site plan is for business and professional use. The slang term, I guess, is office, but really under the bylaw, the category is, there is no office category. The category is business and professional uses. So it's 1 space per 250 square feet of space, and 7 residential apartments. So the required parking is 53. The commercial space parking can apply an automatic parking reduction of 15%. So you get down to what we've shown on the site plan for the parking. I know at the planning board did approve the site plan under site plan review. There were some comments from the public about the parking and how do we know what's going to go into these tenant spaces and how do we know if the parking is going to be sufficient. So we looked at that, and essentially the parking meets the bylaw. That's it. The parking meets the bylaw. The bylaw sets out what's required for business and professional uses and for residential uses. So having said that, however, there could be business or other commercial uses that are similar in nature that might go into this site that have a lesser parking requirement, such as a bank. A bank is 1 space per 300 square feet. So if a bank goes into as one of the tenants, then the owner applicant would want to have credit for those parking spaces, maybe to apply to another use. So I guess I say that because the applicant does not want to be restricted and have to come back to the zoning board every time a new tenant comes in to say, is this tenant okay? So my suggestion is a type of parking condition that I think can work if the board is inclined to approve the special permit. Something to the effect that parking shall be used for residential uses and for business and professional uses and other allowed commercial uses with the same or lesser parking requirements to business and professional uses, or as otherwise are permitted under the zoning bylaw, taking into account the parking then available on the site to allocate to such uses, giving all the existing uses and the parking requirements of the bylaw. So what that means is the building commissioner reviews the building permit, the zoning administrator looks at it as well on the sign-off, and they look at what's there now, and they look at how much parking is being allocated for all those uses, and then they decide if there's enough based on what the tenant needs. So that's kind of the proposal. It gives the applicant some flexibility for tenants, but at the same time it gives the town control over parking uses. So I'd like to just file that as a suggestion for the record. But-
Certainly.
Like, thanks, maybe. Okay, so obviously there's a lot of detail to this project. I know the board members study these plans very carefully, so I'm going to wind it up here. I think that the planning board, as I said, approved the site plan. On site plan review, they approved the access, they approved the circulation, they approved the parking layout, they approved the landscaping. Mr. Borselli is here to answer any questions on that. The planning board is also now the design review committee in town. So as the design review committee, they approved the design of the project. They approved the exterior materials that were being proposed, which are in your file. The design overall has been set up to try and have the new building placed on site so that it has the appearance of something being accessory to this prominent Nimrod building. That was the general idea with the design, and this new building is a one-story here and then a two-story here, so it has a scaling to it. And if you look at the renderings of the site overall, the new building is in the rear of the site and is shielded essentially by the prominence of the Nimrod building, which was the idea, to try and renovate this beautiful historic building and display it. Overall, the applicant has worked with the community and the representatives from the preservation movement and the historical boards to try and improve and renovate this building and keep it and not demolish it. I think it's a significant improvement to what's there. Obviously, even operating a restaurant on the property in a building of this size has greater impacts in terms of traffic and septic in particular than this use does. And that's, I think, important to the tests that this board has to look at. Is this substantially more detrimental as far as the parking nonconformity goes? Not the overall use, but again, the parking lot nonconformity. So I would submit to you that it certainly is not, that the parking lot improvements and landscaping are a tremendous benefit to the community. And overall, this project will be a great project and a great addition, and in a really nice location for what's being proposed here. Beautiful location for the residential tenants in particular, place to live. So, with that, happy to answer any questions again on any of the technical engineering details, architecture, whatever that you may have. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see if there's any questions. Jerry?
No question.
TJ?
Attorney Moynihan, you touched upon the rear and front setbacks for the parking. Is that going to remain the same with this proposed project?
Did you answer? Do you have a minute to show that?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. If you make reference, flip a page, page 1. It's hard to see on the new plan, but the first plan on the set is existing conditions, and it shows all the outline of the edges of pavement. And if you look closely on the other page, you can see it. But basically, the pavement goes virtually up to, and in a couple of places touches or slightly over the lot line here. And it is closer to Dillingham Ave in this area. We reconfigured this to try to pull back from Dillingham and make the parking more parallel with the building. So in all places, the new layout of pavement is further away in the rear, marginally further away than the existing pavement. And in the front, it is further away in all areas except one spot right here, where it's maintaining no closer. Okay. Did that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Is that it, TJ? Ed, anything?
No question.
I've got nothing.
For the residential tenants, are there any plans to designate their parking locations?
That was brought up at the planning board as well. The preference would be to not do that. Preference would be to just allow people to park where they would like to park. Obviously, it's a mixed-use development. We expect that there will be shared peak, or different peak times for parking, with the tenants having, majority of the tenants having the peak time in the evening, commercial uses during the day. Mr. Dalton has another development called Katama Gardens, which is up on 28A, where he has a similar type of arrangement with apartments and commercial tenants, and has kind of modeled parking here on that. Doesn't have any issues there with, conflicts in parking. So the preference would be to not have to designate it.
And are there any light poles or light posts through, and do you know the height by chance?
Yes, Mike, I think, can show you where those are.
There's types of site lighting. There's lamp post lighting, subtle lamp posts similar to the ones out here, or maybe even lower than the ones out here. But, in keeping with, low impact, not gooseneck lights, and they're scattered through the site. And then there's some lighting on the buildings, at entries and things like that. So throughout, in strategic locations, there's low-profile lanterns, and then at entryways, there's on-building lighting.
And then my only other question was, where they tried to save that beech tree in back, did they reabsorb the parking space or just delete it? In the back left corner?
Right. There's a 38-inch beech tree here, and at the moment, we're not proposing any parking spaces to be constructed, but we're showing it in gray because we asked for the reduction. So we're showing if we didn't get the reduction, we'd need to put parking there, which would, of course, affect. We're taking care to protect the beech tree. I have learned, though, that they're very sensitive. So we're going to, there's going to be landscape contractors and specialists that are consulted to just advise us on how to take care of it. But we can't guarantee that. We're going to do our best.
Just try.
We love the tree, too.
Yeah.
We want it to live. Yeah.
That's my only questions.
Okay, remind me, total number of required spaces, that's what you're showing with 50?
We're showing the required spaces less the parking reduction that we can take under the bylaw. But under the bylaw, you have to show where you could build those parking reduction
Right.
spaces if you had to. So those are the ones that are in dashed lines. Okay, so the parking calculation.
So that's about 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's on page 1 of the layout plan. So the business and professional spaces requirement is 39.6 spaces. The residential parking requirement is 12.5 spaces. So the total required parking is 52.1, or round up 53 spaces. So the by right parking reduction only applies to the commercial use. You can't take it against the apartments. So it sounds like a big deal, but quite honestly, it really isn't here. It's only 5.9 spaces on the by right reduction. Okay, so 6 spaces. So the total required spaces with the by right reduction is 47. That's what's shown on the plan. And then you've got the additional 6 spaces in dashed lines just showing where they could be constructed.
Okay, that clarifies, for sure.
But I think it is significant because the bylaw is odd, but you don't take the parking reduction against the residential use, so it really isn't that big of a reduction, to be honest. It's 6 spaces.
And is this your landscape plan here?
Yes. Oh, it's Mike's plan.
The only thing I'd comment on is I tend to agree with the planning board perspective that you ought to designate the residential spaces. The residential units are spread between the 2 buildings, that's correct, isn't it?
Yes, there are 2 in the front building and then 5 in the, or excuse me, 5 in the front, 2 in the rear.
When you say rear,
This building, the new building. 2 units here
okay.
and 5 here. And I should also apologize to the board because I mixed it up on the application as well, so it's been corrected in your file. But, so it's 5 here, 2 here.
Okay.
I mean, that's, I think that's up to the board if you feel that's necessary.
Well-
I mean, the other option is maybe if you're inclined to grant the special permit, you could say that it could be reviewed in 1 year, and if it's determined that the residential spaces need to be designated, that the board could, review the permit at that time, but
I just think it's nice for the people who live there to know they have a spot. Where they can, no matter when they show up, they can park.
Right, but I guess the point is if it meets the bylaw, then that should happen anyway, right?
It should in theory, yes.
And you have shared uses, so. But again, that's really at the pleasure of the board. We don't think it's necessary, but.
Jerry?
And are you through?
If you want to talk, I'm through.
Oh, that'll be the first time. Thank you.
Let's see what you say.
By the same token, none of the businesses are going to have designated spots like this as parking for ABC, whatever.
Correct, yeah.
And the other thing, where are the dumpsters?
Right here in the back, in this area.
Okay.
There's also a bicycle pavilion proposed here, which I should have pointed out, which is kind of a different thing. But the idea being that instead of having a bicycle rack, it would be a structure that, would be covered as a bicycle pavilion. So it's kind of a neat feature for the site to encourage bicycle use. You have a place where your bicycle can be covered if it's raining or whatever else. Locked up.
Okay. Anything else from the board before we go to the public? All right, let's see if the public has questions or concerns.
I'm Bob Kinchler. I lived at 110 Dillingham Avenue, and I wouldn't be here if this was going to be, if the Nimrod was going to be rebuilt as a restaurant and as it was before. However, I see some things on the plan that disturbs me. If you look at the one-way street that's on the left-hand side of the building, the left-hand street, the arrows point to the rear. Now in the rear, it becomes a two-lane road. Now people entering the driveway on the east side is 2 lanes. 2 lanes go all the ways up. They go to the left at the back of the building. Those 2 lanes will then hit a sign saying no entrance, because it's a one-way. Now anybody delivering materials to these tenants on the right-hand side or in the back will go in that eastern driveway, go up and hit there. There's no turnarounds there. There's no lights. There's 4 light posts on the property. None at the entrances. And I just feel those 4 That could be corrected by eliminating the 4 parking areas on the one-way street there. That would widen that road to a regular 2-lane. If you follow what I'm saying there, there's 4 parking spaces. There's no sidewalk on those parking spaces to go into the building for people parking there. They would have to walk down against traffic on the one-way street, one-way driveway. Here again, there's 5 apartments. There's 5 apartments in the present Nimrod building. They're all up, there's 4 of them upstairs. There's 1 exit and 1 entrance. Now, you have 5 apartments upstairs, and hope nothing would happen, but I think there should be another exit or some way out. The tenant spaces on the first floor, there's 3 of those on the present Nimrod building. And supposing you had a doctor's office in there, doctor's office would be a receptionist, a nurse, and a physician. That would be 3 cars, plus patients. Anyone going to doctors nowadays, the waiting room is 4 or 5 at least people in the waiting room. That would add to the car situation. The bylaw might say that's enough, but there really isn't enough with these other buildings and so forth here. If it was rebuilt as the Nimrod, there would be plenty of parking spaces. Not knowing what the sewerage is, nothing is shown in these buildings whatsoever, the tenants. There's no plumbing, no electrical, nothing shown whatsoever. So how would the apartments be given occupancy permits if the tenants downstairs aren't in with anything being done? They would have to be done at a later date. The rubbish collection would have to go in the one-way driveway in order to pick up the rubbish at the end of the corner up there on the right-hand side. And then go out driveway number 2, I'll call it. Plus, if those 4 parking spaces were eliminated there, the fire department would have a better access with the ladder truck to hit the side of the buildings. All the apartments, the entrance for the apartments are in the rear of the building. And with hardly any lights back there right now, I believe there's only 1 pole light back in that area. That's going to be a very dark, secluded area at night. None of the apartments except the one on the first floor are handicapped accessible if there's anyone who moved in or anyone visiting. The tenant spaces in the front door is showing steps up to it on the main entrance to the front. Actually, Mr. Dalton has the courage to renovate this building because it's in very, very bad condition. It'd be better if it were toned down, started from scratch, and it'd be cheaper for him and he'd be able to put more into it. I know I'm probably talking against the historical society right now, but there's, the cannonball hole is in the men's room. If anyone ever went into the Nimrod Club when it was operating, you could hardly turn around in that particular bathroom where the hole is. It's about the size of an airline. I worked on this building a lot in the 60s with George Allen, so I do know the building, and it's in poor condition. It would be better for the town and everyone else if the Historical Society put a room or an area together to put the artifacts for the Nimrod in that area and build a building that would be best for the next 100 years. There's just too many questions on the building, on the everything with the tenant spaces. Even if there was a lawyer's office in there, there'd be a receptionist, and the lawyer would have an office and maybe a file clerk. That's 3 more cars. So figure it out, never mind what the bylaw says, but figure it out what is possibly there, and you have a problem. The apartments, possibly two vehicles for each apartment. If the husband works or whatever, he has a pickup truck, and the wife would have a car.
Okay, we do like to limit comments to a couple, we like to limit the comments and concerns to a couple of minutes, so if you could wrap up.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if Michael wants to address the direction of circulation in the lot.
Septic disposal as well.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say, we go by what the town regulations say, the town requirements. The site plan review was occurred, the town engineer was satisfied. My experience tells me this is adequate. The Title V and Board of Health regulations is very specific about the uses in the wastewater flow, and it's been designed in accordance with both. That's really all I have.
Where is the septic shed? I don't see it on the plan.
Well, there is a separate page with all the details, but on this rendering, there's 2 separate systems. There's one here with these blue rectangles, serves this building. The bigger rectangle is the tank, and the leaching fields are like that. So this is for that building, this is for that building.
In the fire department?
There's a referral from, in your file. There were some questions and concerns, but they were satisfied, and they're satisfied that they have adequate access.
If I may add, too, to just address Mr. Kinchlow's comments, each of these tenant spaces, as you know, when a tenant comes in, they're going to have to apply for a building permit. So each space will be reviewed again by the building commissioner. The space has to meet the building code, just as the apartments have to meet building code in terms of access in and out of buildings. So all of that would be regulated through the building permit process. But that's typically what happens. Each space, as the space is marketed and a particular tenant comes in, they then apply for a building permit for their space. At that time, the Board of Health reviews the septic flows, the parking gets looked at, Ms. Boudreau gets, in on it, and she's got to review it as well, and that's how these mixed-use projects work. And we do have others in town that are similar when another new tenant comes in. So there is regulation, I guess, to address the gentleman's concerns.
Okay. Other comment? Yep, sir. We'll get you on the next one.
Richard Batchelor, 110 Dillingham. I attended the planning board meeting, and a lot of questions were asked about the tenant spaces, and I don't think they've been answered yet. It seems that anything could be in there. And it would make a great deal of difference to the abutters, whether it was a small office with 1 or 2 visitors a day, or an ice cream stand with hundreds of visitors. I understand that you can't say exactly who the tenants will be, but perhaps you could, the applicant could tell us what kind of businesses he would look to have there. And one other question, a very minor one. One of the historical interests of the current building is that it's got a hole in it. Will the hole be preserved? Thank you.
Okay. I'm sure you can easily answer whether the hole is going to be preserved.
Yes, the hole will be preserved. As far as the tenant uses go, for any project like this, nobody can say who the tenants are going to be. But we can say that the parking is sized for business and professional offices. So it's unlikely, based on this plan, that you would have retail or you would have restaurant. Septic is sized for business and professional offices. But my point earlier and at the planning board was that the applicant doesn't want to be limited. If there is somebody that came in and said, well, if I could have 500 square feet and have a small coffee shop, you know, that's not business or professional. But maybe at that particular time there's enough capacity in the parking because maybe there's a bank next door and the bank hasn't used up as many spaces as a professional office would. So that particular tenant could be accommodated. That's kind of the idea. But I think based on this plan, if something larger came in, like a large retail operation or a restaurant, it would have to come back to this board. That's the reality of it. Okay, but we just don't, the applicant just doesn't want to have his hands tied in terms of having to refuse a tenant or some, you know, really compatible use because a special permit might say you can only have business and professional offices. That's really the idea.
So you're ultimately going to be limited by the requirements for parking and septic.
Correct. And if there's going to be something more than that, then I anticipate it would have to come back before the board.
Okay, there was a gentleman over here.
My name is Ed Haddad. I'm the commissioner of the Falmouth Historical Commission. And as Ms. Moynihan said, yes, this is not in the historic district and not subject to our purview, so we have not reviewed this project from a historical commission perspective. However, I don't think there's any doubt that it's been mentioned several times, this is a historic building, and we commend Mr. Dalton for keeping the building. I think it's important to the community and to the fabric of this community that the building is being kept and the image of it is. But what I'd like to come before your board is talk about siting, because we are talking about preserving a historic building. So I don't think there's any question about that in what's been discussed tonight. And the thing about parking is that I would just like to quickly talk about is, if I had my druthers, I would love to see this building sited on Dillingham Street as a residential building would have looked in any historical time or in any normal neighborhood type of environment, but it is what it is, where it is. However, I would like to talk about the parking here in front of the building, and I don't believe parking in the front door of a historical building does pay homage to a historical building. And if I could put that request for it, I would like to see this area in front of the building itself maybe a little bit more landscaped with less parking, so that we do showcase the historical building. That I don't think there's any question that we're talking about a historical building here. And that's what I'd like to present about the board. It's just really the siting of the historical building and the parking, specifically in direct proximity to the front of the building itself.
Okay. You want to address that?
Well, we all want things that aren't always possible, and the bottom line is that there is parking in the front of this historical building right now. And I commend Mr. Haddad for his work, but there are just limits to what anybody can do with this particular project. So it's an existing condition right now, that there's parking in front of the building. There has been parking in front of the building for many, many, many years. So while we're trying to preserve the building here, I think going that extra hurdle and somehow requiring the building to be moved is really just not feasible for this developer.
All right.
David McDonald, my chiropractic office is at 171 Gifford Street. What mechanical equipment, air conditioning, will be outside the building? There's a multi-unit residential building next to my office that has a huge, very loud unit behind it. I'm just wondering, what does this have?
Okay, I don't know if they know the answer yet.
Also, one more question. The commercial units, are they going to be rented, leased, or sold?
The commercial units will be leased. As far as the air conditioning goes, there's no set construction detail on it yet. Certainly, we don't expect from Mr. Dalton's other projects that there's going to be noise disturbing the neighbors from it, but certainly that the board could condition a permit, any permit accordingly as far as air conditioning goes.
Okay. Are there any other comments on this project at this time? Okay. We have heard a lot of comments, so let's
Something new.
make sure that it's new, please.
Yes, Malcolm Donald, founder of SaveTheNimrod.org, a group of concerned citizens who came together to influence Warren Dalton to save the building. And it's fantastic that he's done so. He's planning to do that. I'd like to take issue with Attorney Moynihan's statements regarding the planning board being the design review committee, and her statement saying that that committee reviewed the materials that were going to be used in building construction. In the August meeting that the Nimrod, these plans were presented to the planning board. In particular, specifically, Patricia Kerfoot specifically stated that the planning board has no jurisdiction over materials. I'd just like to make that perfectly clear.
Not sure that we do.
And that meeting is documented on video. The other question I have is, will the applicant be presenting these plans before the Historical Commission? And yes. And I would strongly request that action be taken. Thank you.
Okay. I don't believe we have any power to compel them to go before the Historic Commission. And the testimony was that they're not in the Historic District, and am I correct, Laura?
That's correct, yeah. On the Thursday before Labor Day weekend, Mr. Dalton, through me, I received an email asking him to attend the Historical Commission meeting on Tuesday night to show them the plans. but he was not available, and with the short notice, it didn't pan out. But we were expecting that was just as a courtesy request, but in any event, there is no jurisdiction over it. The Historical Commission did issue a demolition, they did issue a demolition permit for this building some time ago, or allowed for the permit to go forward. So anyway, the comment about the planning board, if you look at the site plan review decision, the planning board says in the site plan review decision that they find the architectural elevations and landscaping appropriate for the area's setting. The planning board is the design review committee now, so we had to file all the architectural details with the planning board. We had to file the elevations with the planning board, which we don't normally do on site plan review. So in the process of their review of the project, they are the design review committee. So I'm not sure where the mix-up might be with the comments, but it was very clear that they were reviewing it and reviewing all the architectural details as part of their requirement under the bylaw. So, thank you.
It had to do with, they weren't going to determine the materials used like the Historical Commission would have.
Sure.
That's what I believe it was discussed about.
So
Yes.
they
Yes.
will review it and accept
Historical,
it.
it's not in historical's jurisdiction.
Well,
It's-
what does it mean? That you're going to submit architectural plans to them?
No, planning board did under design review. What Ms. Kerfoot was stating is it's not their purview to
Correct.
dictate what materials are used. Whereas if you went before historic with an historic
Right.
district, they might
They
be
tell you
able to.
what kind of windows you could have and
Yeah.
so forth.
So that's that.
Mr. McDonald, what,
It's Mitch Donald, is the last name. I have a follow-up question for the attorney.
okay.
Is it
Very
jurisdiction
quickly.
zoning?
Laura?
I was just going to say, under the zoning bylaw, the design review committee is the advisory committee to the zoning board of appeals
Right.
for design issues, which includes windows, doors, color of the buildings, shingles used, colors, all of those elements. Since the design review committee, as a separate committee, was disbanded or dissolved or whatever, the planning board has taken that over. So there is that review. All of that review goes into what the planning board is doing. It is not within the jurisdiction of the planning board to dictate what materials, but they are advisory. If they had an objection to something, they would say so, but they didn't. Thank you.
You said it very well. I kind of messed it up. I'm sorry about that.
By the same token, you're in front of us for what purposes again? Specifically, that we have jurisdictional issues
Well, we're
over.
here for the special permit for the apartments.
Okay.
And we're here because there's a non-conforming parking lot. So
Okay.
we do
Non-conform-
anticipate that the board is looking at the design, obviously, and of the buildings, and that's part of your purview as well. But there is no requirement for the planning board, like the historical committee or commission might do, to say, we want you to use a different kind of window.
Okay.
Okay.
Malcolm Donald again. Follow up on that. Patricia Kerfoot denied any kind of public testimony regarding windows and any kind of building materials. And then that was one point. And the second point, my question hasn't been answered. I would like to know, and the people of Falmouth would like to know, whether Mr. Dalton will submit his plans or come before the Historical Commission for a courtesy review. And the question was not answered.
This is not the forum for that question. That's a personal matter between you and Mr. Dalton.
The point is, this zoning board doesn't have the authority to compel them to do that.
All right, well, I'm just asking. I'm asking the question.
So it's just not pertinent to our zoning review
Right.
issues, okay? That's all I can tell you.
Can I just respond?
Yeah.
I think if the Historical Commission would like Mr. Dalton to come to their meeting, they should write him a letter and give him adequate notice and ask him. Okay? But it didn't work out because
Okay,
it
so
was an email 3 days before Labor Day
I'd like to put that to bed
weekend.
for this hearing purpose. We're not dealing with the Historic Commission issues. Ma'am, something new, because this hearing has gone on for a while.
Kathleen Murray, 110 Dillingham. You know, if they just cut this, I think people are reasonably happy with what's being done with the Nimrod portion. But this other building, they call it the barn, if it was just made a little smaller, they could open that up for parking, and they could still have the 2 apartments and have space underneath. It would just, you know, like,
Be careful.
this area, these are the apartments above
Yeah.
there. I mean, that is just a possibility.
No, I think they're not exceeding the limits under the zoning that they have for lot coverage and building height and all that. So, you know, he's within his rights to build this.
Then they don't need the parking problem.
Okay, I think we've heard your concerns. Let's see if the board feels they need any additional information.
Yeah, it just came to my attention, I missed it the other day. This 12-foot wide one-way section here, we've had other developments where the fire department has insisted that it be 14 feet. Recently, the one on,
The fire department did review it because they've got an entrance that is two-way that
Okay.
gives access, and they can get to the front and the rear. I did.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify to Mr. Kieran, the plan was revised to increase it to 14 feet as a recommendation from the town engineer.
Okay.
Originally, it was 12, it was increased to 14.
okay, this drawing says 12.
Isn't, don't we have it revised?
Well, let's see, this plan's dated July 26th.
July 6th or July 26th?
26th.
Oh, okay, I'm looking at it.
Well, there was a revision,
We have revised
there was a
plans.
revision on August 29th, revisions as per engineering department referral.
Okay,
Yeah,
So those were hand delivered.
okay,
we have them.
thank you.
I believe we have them, I'm just telling you what this plan is.
Because we did talk about that with the fire department. It's all.
Yeah, and the
So that's
only-
now a 14-foot way.
Yeah, and the only other change, Mr. Chairman, was they asked for Cape Cod berm, which was added on that revised plan. Driveway was widened to 14 feet.
Adjustment of the dump.
And the dumpsters were moved slightly, so just some slight tweaks.
Okay.
So just do
That's
it.
not looking.
Just to address some of the concerns on the appearance, what is the external material that you're going to have? Is it, I see the drawings of the elevation, but is this just like a clapper?
Yeah, it should be in your file, there should be a detailed list. It lists everything, colors, style, it's all traditional materials. You know, I think some of the comments might be about the windows, but windows, Warren can talk a little bit more about them. It's just a very expensive project as it is. I mean, that's really the issue of relocating. I mean, anybody would like to do more than is possible, but there just is an economic ceiling on it. See where yeah, do you want to just go through, the list should be in your file, but I can't.
Yeah, it's here.
Oh, you have it, okay.
Hey there, Warren Dalton. So just to address a few concerns and different things that are going on about this. I don't really want to go in front of the historic district. Typically what I do is very historic looking anyways. My house has wood windows in it, wood trim, wood shingles. That's just what I like to do. So this project doesn't fall in that district, and it is what it is. We're saving it. It's going to look like these pictures. All the exterior will be wood shingle, wood clapboard, earth tone roof colors, architectural series windows. And the windows that exist there now, there might be a couple that somebody would have interest in. Most of them have vinyl jam liners, aluminum jam liners, they're Brosco windows. It's just a mishmash of everything that's gone on for a long time. So anyways, I think, overall, that this project will look great when you drive by it, like the Cooking Museum that you drive by on the way to Hyannis. I don't know if everybody's seen that, but that thing, it's beautiful. So that's really about it. Any questions?
Any questions?
No.
Okay. All right. Has the board satisfied?
I am.
Absolutely.
Welcome to have a motion to close.
I'll make the motion to close.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Paul, Ed and Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yes. I think be sure that we do this right. We should ask Sari for a draft again,
Yes.
rather than vote it tonight. So I would be happy to entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion to direct Sari to draft a affirmative decision on application 61-17.
I'll second it.
Okay, so that's TJ and Ed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I.
Just for your information,
Oh,
the
yeah,
findings I will base on testimony, site plan review, and the plans
Referrals.
before you,
Yeah.
yes. And I'll send it out to you and to Attorney Moynihan, and hopefully I'll be able to have that done by September 28th hearing.
And, I think we want to keep in mind that the issues are the zoning issues.
Right, it's zoning completely. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all for coming and expressing your views.
So that's the second one we're reviewing on the plans tonight. Nobody had the August date?
Nope.
Great.
I'm the clerk, I forgot.
That's
I'm the cookie. Chappie. Bang, bang.
Okay, we still have hearings.
Yep.
Wait a minute, there's still one more?
No, just the administrative, that's right. Say yes.
Yes.
New.
Close enough.
Did someone leave a sweater?
Yeah, Ed, do you know who left that sweater there? Oh, there you go.
All right, next hearing.
Oh, continuance. Oh, we're going home.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this was a continuance.
Oh, that's...
Okay.
You got
Let's get it
ripped
done,
off.
'cause you got 5
Now you're
approval.
You're the clerk. Read it in.
All right. Oh,
That's awful.
so I kept
I
bringing
feel
back
horrible,
office
yeah.
administrative approvals.
Right, you'd have been home.
All right. Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Christy I. Baxter, trustee of Sudbury, Massachusetts, applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Sections 240-3C and 240-68 A and B of the Code of Falmouth to raise and reconstruct a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling on subject property known as 8 Settlers Path, Falmouth, Massachusetts. I think we should withhold on reading the referrals in. in light of the fact that we received correspondence from Thomas Bunker on Friday, September 8th. Dear Sri, on behalf of the applicant, I am requesting a continuance of the above caption matter to the date of October 5th, 2017, due to various changes to the submitted plans. Please confirm if this hearing date is acceptable to you and the board.
What was the date?
October 5th, 2017. And I will make a motion to continue
Second it.
to October
Okay.
5th, 2017.
Moved and seconded. Kim and Ed, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so next, I guess we have minutes of August 17th.
Minutes.
Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from October 17th?
August.
August 17th?
Yes.
October 17th hasn't happened
It
yet.
has not.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of August 17th.
Was Paul here?
Yeah, so,
Wasn't it? I believe I was.
Oh, she threw you for a loop on that one.
were you here?
I think so. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Well, let's see, this should say in the
Okay, well, you
minutes.
weren't, oh, duh.
I think I was,
Right at the
wasn't
top, first page.
Paul Murphy, yeah, you were present.
Yeah.
Okay.
I?
That
I
was
forgot
obviously a
one.
memorable meeting.
I forgot one meeting entirely.
Okay,
Just one.
can I get on to the,
We didn't vote on that.
oh,
Paul
All in-
moved
All
and,
in favor?
Ed seconded.
Seconded.
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, minutes are approved.
All right.
So there was a good reason.
What I have before the board, well, you're going to pass on the procedures and policies, correct, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, let's pass on.
Okay, so next is board administrative approvals, which the board knew that these were going to come before you. I have 5 tonight that you granted special permits for accessory apartments. First one is Michael Lynch, 264 Central Ave, and they're asking for dissolution of the special permit because it is now a by right. Second one is 46 Edmar Road, 134 Carriage Shop Road, 121 Regis Road, and 62 Elaine Avenue. I sent you all a draft of how it was proposed. I got Frank Duffy's approval on the language.
I'd like to make a motion to administratively approve those 5 requests
As stated,
as stated
for those addresses.
for those addresses, as stated for those addresses.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we're all in favor then. Any discussion? I mean, the only thing I'm interested in is sort of keeping track of.
Frank Duffy did say they have to request it, so I did not, all these requested it.
Right.
There will not be any more unless they are requested, and they will be before you.
But are any of this, are there specific conditions in any of those regarding affordability, et cetera?
Family, this was one that was rented for a security purpose, not deemed affordable. They all have deed restrictions. This is for family, the care of a grandchild who needed medical attention. This one was rented as affordable, and this one was family.
So I just think it'd be interesting to keep a tally.
Right, they all do have the affordable component in the event that the family, it is not rented to a family member.
Right. But it's a political statement, not relevant, to these particular cases, but, the goal, stated goal of the accessory, getting rid of the accessory apartment special permit requirement was to encourage affordability, and we have apartments that are no longer subject to that limitation.
And remember that these apartments are 30% or 700, no more than 750 square foot. So the premise that the planning board was going on is just the size of them would limit them to affordability. But that may not be the case.
Right.
We don't know, so that's why.
Certainly not if you're...
So do you want me to keep an ongoing list?
I just would.
Okay. All right. do that. Did you call the motion, or?
I have not had a vote yet.
Okay.
So if people are ready to vote,
Yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so those have all been dissolved.
Thank you. I have one more thing for the board. Conflict of interest that Frank Duffy submitted. If you would all take this, and there is, I believe it's the third page, it is asking you to sign it and send it to me, or I can do up a typical form like I usually do and have you sign it at the next meeting. Because I have a witness that from all the board members that you all got it.
Is this different from the one we got before?
This is done every year.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm saying, the yearly.
Yeah.
So can we just do it right now?
If everybody wants to do it, sure. Just tear out that page and give it to me. I was trying to make it neat, but that's okay.
Oh, all we're saying is that we've received the.
Correct.
Right.
It's not under the pains and penalties of perjury, anyways. I haven't read it. Doesn't
You
say
read it
that.
last year, it's
You're
the
on
same
TV.
as.
Hello.
same as-
Well, that's, I'm not, I wouldn't sign it if it said I had read it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I read it once.
I did receive it.
Yeah, yeah.
Nine. How do you like that signature?
Okay, well,
I think last year it came out.
Is it like a doctor's?
Oh, our
office?
next
Yeah, it's
meeting, it might
just-
be. that's
Correspondence.
in
The
library.
royal,
so the next item here is correspondence and board updates, schedule workshop. It says.
It's time for a workshop, most definitely.
So this would be a workshop like having Bobrowski or someone like that come and talk, or this is a, what is?
It's up to the board if you want a speaker, or we could just, we've got to work on some policies, that's for sure.
Probably should do that.
So however you want to do it, you can do it twofold. You can have a speaker for the
Yeah,
first
I
45
think
minutes.
it's been very useful to have outside advice. I certainly think the one we held on 40Bs with Mark was extremely helpful.
It
Yeah.
was.
And I'm glad we did it
just didn't get to
in
any other
advance.
business.
he's exceptional. I like outside counsel too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, he's exceptional.
And there's some
I mean,
other topics that we might want to.
Well, why don't you think about them and send whatever topic you'd like to discuss outside of the procedures that we need to update.
Right, and then the
And a
procedures is
policy.
clearly part of it, but I think, I don't know what everyone else thinks, but, you know, we did a pretty good job of going over the procedures a while, not that long ago. We probably need to refresh them in our own
Well,
mind.
there's a couple you need to vote on
Yeah.
that we've talked
And there is
about.
I guess Jerry has a request about having them posted, which I think if,
Having what posted?
having
Our policies and
the
procedures.
policies and
Aren't those
procedures.
They are posted, they're on our website. They've
Are they?
always
I thought
been.
it-
Yes. Procedures are on our website.
What about the,
The policy
Policy,
on
we
de
have two
minimis,
policies.
and I don't put those on the website
why not?
because I don't feel the need to.
But if
It's up to the board's discretion, it's not a rule. It's discretionary to the board.
Yeah, there's nothing really hard and fast on de minimis, is there?
Yeah, it's subjective.
And it's a case by case. You should
Right.
never put anything in black and white on de minimis.
I just don't, when we say we have a policy and either, the people don't even know we have possibly. What's the harm of you putting it up there and you say it's policy, it's not.
That's something you guys can talk about in your
Okay,
workshop.
that's
Yeah,
good.
I think that's best to be done there.
Okay, so in terms of the schedule, do we want to identify a date?
Again, it's up to the board.
Well, we have that joint meeting on October 14th, so I think we should be cognizant of that. That's a
Please
Saturday.
Try to attend that.
I
please.
cannot, did I tell you?
October 14th, you said?
Yes.
So sometime in November?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can look at the schedule. I think we only have
Yeah,
two
don't forget an
hearings.
agenda and topics.
Are these usually, what, do we usually do these
Saturdays, 9 to 12.
Saturdays?
Katie?
Got a couple of lists of
catered?
topics, and then
Yeah.
decide who we want to come.
No, Ken cooks for us.
And then that'll determine the
I'm
date.
kidding.
Yeah, that sounds,
We still just determining
yeah, we could come up with the topic.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking that sometimes if you have the date, that forces the rest of it to fall into place.
Well, we have a hearing the 2nd, and what is it, 16th? You've got the schedule there in front of you,
Yeah,
right?
then there's Thanksgiving.
Sorry.
You want to circulate dates? Ken?
Sure.
Could you get the close?
I think November.
I'm
probably
sensing
makes
people would like to adjourn.
Well, Serena was like,
How'd you get that message?
I haven't heard them really, but
We can discuss it in detail next week.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, all right, meeting adjourned.
I think we should talk about turkeys.
Think of dates, though. The board should be thinking